Hey everybody, it's Beverly and welcome to my channel, Bama Blind. And this particular video is dedicated to all of you fathers out there that are different. I call it the Different Dad video in honor of Father's Day. And I really want to make it a tribute to my own father, who is no longer around, and share a little bit about what it means, what it can mean to be a dad in the life of a child, your offspring, someone you care about. And that can be biological, it can be a stepchild, it can be adopted, it could be any little person that considers you a dad. I know most of the people on my YouTube channel have got visual impairments, and I know that in society a lot, when you think about dad, like, you know, dad, what is a dad? And what is a father? What does he do? And you typically think, well, the father provides, the father takes care of, the father makes everyone safe, the father is there to keep some semblance maybe of order, those kinds of things that you think about with a father. And I know with having a disability, or what I call a difference, it might be hard to consider what it's like to be a dad, a father, and what possible influence could you with a disability have on a little creature growing up. And I think that's why I wanted to do this video so much. And I thought about it and thought about it, and I thought, well, I'm not going to do it. And then I thought, I am going to do it because I want to dedicate it to my father. My father freaked out when he found out he was going to be a dad. I was the second child born, but he just, according to my mom, you know, he was a teach me how to do it and I can do it kind of guy. He loved to learn, and he loved to learn with someone teaching him what to do. And when he found out that he was going to be a dad, a father, and responsible for these little creatures, he just freaked out. He kind of, he had completed a stint in the Army as a medic. He had gone to college, he had graduated. He had a degree in business administration, so, you know, it wasn't that he couldn't tackle challenges, but when he realized, ding, I'm a dad and going to be a dad, he really just did a flip-flop and said, I'm not prepared for this. No one has taught me what to do. I don't know how to do this. And for a while, he freaked out. We lived out in the country. We lived on a huge old antebellum farm, and he did farming and lumbering and sawmilling because that's what his father had done. And it had nothing to do with his degree, and it had nothing to do with his stint in the Army as an officer. He just had to do time out. I've got to regroup, you know, well, who's going to teach me this? And really, you know, he had a father growing up. He had 3 brothers and a sister, and, you know, but he didn't have any lessons on how to be a dad. And to make things more difficult, the year I was diagnosed with my sight loss, which was about age 5. I always had it, but it really wasn't diagnosed properly, wasn't really, you know, put onto paper. The very year that I was diagnosed, my dad was diagnosed with a deep cerebral brain tumor. And, none of us, nobody knows what kind of prognosis you have when you're given that kind of thing. So here he was, a dad that was, ill prepared, he said, to be a dad, and then diagnosed with a condition that created a lot of limitations that he wasn't accustomed to. My dad grew up extremely physical. He was very, very athletic. He played 4 years in varsity football. He wasn't a big guy. He was more on the small side, but he's very muscular and very agile. And he played basketball, varsity basketball for 4 years. He was an avid swimmer. He could dance. He was just a very physical, very strong person. And when he was diagnosed with this deep cerebral brain tumor, it suddenly threw our whole family into, okay, what does this look like? And I'm sure in his mind, first of all, he freaked out when he was going to be a dad. And then the next thing he found out is, well, now my daughter is legally blind. And then the next thing, like within months, it was, I have a deep cerebral brain tumor. And I keep saying deep cerebral because those are usually inoperable. And so my dad, for my growing up years, was different than other dads. The first thing, he no longer could do the things that he loved to do. He couldn't play football. He lost a great deal of strength on one side of his body. He had a very pronounced limp. He lost the ability to use his right hand, and he was right-handed. He had brain surgery and had to recover from that. And that was the days before they even had CAT scans, much less MRIs. So he went through this horrendous treatment to hopefully stave off the effects of this brain tumor. And the whole while, he was being a dad. And in my mind, what that dad was the most compassionate, caring, considerate, not only to his family and people close to him, but people that he didn't even know. Because he couldn't really, spar with us, I call it, in the backyard with football. And of course, I couldn't see a football coming at me anyway, but I was right in there with my brother and my dad. And my dad would trip and would stumble. And that, for a very agile person, that was so, so difficult now that I think back on it. And it didn't stop him from getting out there and spending time with us. He showed my brother the techniques for holding a football, the techniques for throwing a football, the techniques for swinging a bat, showed me the stance for swinging a bat, and how to do that, the stance for holding a golf club. He taught me how to swim. He would sit by the pool, and he was not able to swim anymore because he was on heavy seizure medications. And doctors were so afraid he would have a seizure in water, and then of course you would drown. So this avid swimmer that could swim across a lake and not think a thing about it was now not able to get into the water and swim with us. But he took us every Sunday and spent the entire Sunday afternoon. Okay, here's how you go to the edge of the diving board. Here's how you do a little minnow dive, and then the graceful swan dives. And well, why don't we try the back flips? All from the side of the pool, he would coach us. And particularly me, because he knew I couldn't see, and he figured, okay, if she can't do it one way, she's going to do it another way. And that instilled in me, as someone that was severely visually impaired, legally blind, the thought that, okay, I can do this. If he's got confidence that I can do it, then I need to have the confidence that I can do it. So he instilled in me that confidence. Not one bit of the things that I just mentioned had anything to do with his physicality, and had everything to do with the spirit inside of him, what he was. And I look and I talk to and I meet and I know so many dads that are different. I could sit here and name a string of names. I can tell you that being in the blind community, I had a friend that was a coworker of mine, and she was a rehabilitation teacher. And her dad was completely blind from World War II. And he had 3 daughters. He was married and had 3 daughters. And so, you know, we would spend time together at conferences and things like that. That's when I would see her. And I said, well, what was your life like growing up? Because my life was different growing up with a different dad. What was yours like growing up with a blind dad? And she said, well, I now remember this so distinctly. She really couldn't think of any different things that she or her family did that any other family, you know, would or would not do. And she gave me an example. She said, like, for example, my dad is a real chauvinist. I said, oh, goodness, you know, mine's not. But tell me about him. And she said, well, he doesn't allow us girls to cut the grass. And I said, oh, so he hires somebody? And she says, no. He doesn't hire anybody. He cuts the grass himself. I said, yeah, but he's blind. He's completely blind. She said, yeah. What he does is he puts this 100-gallon barrel out in the middle of the front yard, ties a rope to it, gets a push mower, and taughts that rope all the way to the edge of the yard. So he pulls the rope out to the edge of the yard, tied it to the barrel, which is in the center of the yard, and to the push mower, and then starts the mower and pushes it around and around and around. And each time he goes around, he gets closer. The rope is getting closer, tighter in, closer to the center of the yard where the barrel is. And at the very end, he takes the barrel up and he pushes that push mower 2 or 3 times through, and he's got a completely cut lawn. And he does it by himself, blind. And people will say, oh, I'll do that for you, Mr. Travis, you know, and that's what his name. And he would say, are you crazy? I'm doing it, you know. It's a circular pattern, yes, but I'll not have my daughters or my wife out here cutting the grass. And of course, this was a guy that, you know, had been through World War II and was blinded from that encounter. I had another friend in high school, and she had, well, there were 3 of them because they were triplets. And their dad was our piano tuner, and he was completely blind. And, you know, my friends said, you know, yeah, our house is just like everybody else's house. We get up every morning, my mom cooks the breakfast, and we all go to school, and my dad goes off to work. And, you know, he manages all our finances. When we go into the grocery store, we go together, and, you know, so it was those kinds of things that I kind of grew up knowing. And I think my point is that it doesn't matter what your difference is. It doesn't matter that your legs don't work. It doesn't matter that your legs and even maybe your arms don't work. I know a dad that's a quadriplegic, and he's an awesome dad. And his kids say, you know, he snuggles with us. He helps us with our homework. He tells us the difference between right and wrong. He tells us how to respect others. And I know that I learned those things from my dad, who had lost the ability to move his body and eventually lost his battle with his brain tumor. He died when I was 15. So he taught me so many things that made me what I am today. He gave me my positive outlook, and now when I talk to, people that knew my dad, and there were a lot of people that knew my dad, and they would come up to me and say, your dad was an amazing man. And that just gives me chills, because my dad was different. My dad was not what you would, quote, think about. When you think about, oh, what is the role of a dad? What does a father do? He freaked out when he found out he was going to be a father. No one had taught him how to do that. And then when we added to that the fact that he was a father that was different, that couldn't even carry out the things that he in his mind thought, okay, this is what it means to be a father. He switched and became the most outstanding father a daughter could ever have. So I want to share that with you guys out there, whether you are a dad, whether you're gonna be a dad, whether you are contemplating that idea, if you're different, if you have a difference that makes you different from what the stereotypical dad is. I'm telling you, you've got gifts galore that you can give to your children, to your stepchildren, to your grandchildren, because a dad isn't that iron fist that beats on the table and says it's my way or the highway. That's not the dad. The dad is that spirit that comes out that says, I love you, I care about you, you're safe with me, I will protect you, and I will guide you through your journey in life, and I'll be here for you. And my dad was here for me until he couldn't be. And because he instilled in me all those things, I am just forever grateful. And I hope you take away from this, any of you dads out there that are different, you can be the most awesome dad in the world, especially through the eyes of your child. So I wish all of you fathers and dads and granddads and stepdads and dads-to-be a very, very happy and joyous Father's Day. Bye-bye, everybody.